Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Medical Concepts. This is Shubham. I hope you are enjoying the sessions. So in this video, this is the part 4 of this pathomorphology discussion, and today I am starting with the inflammation. So let's take the first type, that is the exudative inflammation. So in this one they are saying that a man complains of, so we are starting with the question number 29. Fine. So a man complains of itching and redness in the buccal area, fine, that appeared after shaving, vesicles filled with transparent fluid. Okay, that's important. Vesicles filled with transparent fluids are observed on the hyperemic buccal area. Okay, so what is actually happening? The patient was complaining of the itching and redness in the buccal area because of that there might be any kind of cut while shaving, right? So vesicles are filled with the transparent fluids and they are observed on the buccal area, hyperemic buccal area. So what kind of fluid it might be in the vesicles? Okay, so most probably there are the chances that it can be the serous inflammation over there, or you can say that there can be the serous exudate. Okay, now why I am saying so? Because look, for that you should know that what is actually the serous inflammation means. Okay, in that we study about the serous exudate. Fine. So first of all, let me tell you the correct answer for this one is the serous exudate, and it is an example which comes under serous inflammation. Okay, so what happens is that it is actually marked by the outpouring of a thin fluid that is derived from either the bloodstream or the secretions of the mesothelial cells. Okay, what do I mean by that? That for an example, if I will relate this to this particular question, they were saying that after shaving there was itching and redness in that particular buccal area, right? So what actually happened, there might be some kind of cut, okay, and that might bleed after the shaving, and due to that after some time what happened is that there is the formation of vesicle, and after that formation of the vesicle, it might be filled up with a serous fluid. Now you should know why it is transparent. That is important for us to know. Look, they were saying that this fluid was transparent, isn't it? Transparent fluid. Why is it transparent? Because of its content. What is the content of the serous exudate now? Serous exudate contains about this transparent fluid I am talking about. Okay, which means I am saying that this serous exudate, isn't it? This serous exudate, okay, let me write it over here. It is containing 2% of protein, 2% of protein, and very less quantity of cells. Which kind of cells I am talking about? So cells will be decreased. Okay, which cells I am talking about right now? Okay, cells I am saying that there might be, you know, neutrophils, there might be neutrophils, okay, there might be some kind of macrophages, there might be some kind of other cells, for example the desquamative epithelium. Okay, so these kind of cells are actually lesser in number, but what is important for us, 2% protein, that is making this vesicle filled with the fluid which is transparent, isn't it? So that's why this is the serous exudate, and that's how you can actually identify it. Once again, let me tell you that the notes of this video I will be providing in the description box, so you can check all these things from the description box below. Okay, or you may pause the video, listen to the explanation and make your own notes. Fine. So let me tell you once again what is the meaning of the serous inflammation. So it is actually nothing but the outpouring of a thin kind of fluid that is derived from either the bloodstream or secretion of the mesothelial cells. Now look, there might be some kind of blisters, you know, skin blisters, that and what can be the etiology for that? There can be some kind of viral infection, okay, so which actually represent a large amount of serous fluid accumulation, right? Now it can actually present beneath the epidermis. You know, epidermis is the outermost layer of the skin, and after that we are having the dermis and then hypodermis. So beneath the epidermis the person might have the swelling, that skin blister, you know. Okay, I told you the content. This serous exudate actually contains about 2% of protein, which makes it transparent actually. Okay, that's how you can identify, and the cells are very less. For example, which kind of cells I am talking about? Neutrophils, macrophages. Sometimes they ask you the cells also, right? Now outcomes are okay for this one, because outcomes are favorable. Okay, because exudate usually in most of the cases they spontaneously resolves also. Okay, so that you need to remember. Okay, so that was about the serous inflammation, which is having the example, for an example, serous exudate. And how to identify this transparent fluid which was present, which was the content of the vesicle. And what is the content of serous exudate? 2% of protein, which makes it transparent, and very less amount of cells, for example neutrophils and macrophages. I hope you got this clear very clearly. Okay. 30. Autopsy of a man who died of Croup pneumonia, okay, who died of Croup pneumonia, has shown opaque fluid in the pleural cavity. Opaque fluid in the pleural cavity. There was also a membrane of gray color. There also a membrane of gray color on the visceral pleura. Now you must be knowing that what they are talking about, actually talking about the Croup pneumonia, opaque fluid in the pleural cavity, and most importantly the gray color on the visceral pleura. Okay, so we are reading this from decades. The gray color, if it is present near the, it might be near the pleural cavity and most probably in the oral cavity, right? That might be the diphtheria or something like that, right? In this case also it might be diphtheria. Okay, but the thing is not given in the option. What to do now? For that you should know diphtheria comes under which kind of inflammation particularly, and that comes under which kind of inflammation? That comes under fibrinous inflammation. So for that, should I need to know the types of fibrinous inflammation? Exactly, you should need to know the types of fibrinous inflammation. And what are the types? Let me tell you for that. Okay, so fibrinous inflammation is actually having two types. They are the Croup. Okay, they are having the Croup inflammation. So that can be the Croup inflammation, fine, and that there can be the diphtheric fibrinous inflammation. Okay, so I'm just simply writing the diphtheric one. Okay, one more thing, that this fibrinous inflammation is also called as pseudomembranous. Okay, this fibrinous inflammation is also called as what? It is also called as pseudomembranous inflammation. Okay, pseudomembranous inflammation. So do not confuse if this term comes in your option. Okay, in any case. So what are the types? Croup and the diphtheric. Okay, Croup and the diphtheric. Now before going into the detail of this Croup and diphtheric, which kind of epithelium they involve and all these things, what are the phenomena or events which are happening in these two types, let me tell you about the fibrinous inflammation or this pseudomembranous inflammation first. Now it is actually nothing but this is the inflammatory response. This is the inflammatory response of a mucous surface. Which kind of mucosal surface I'm talking about? It can be anything, like it can be, as I said, it can be oral, it can be pleura, so it can be respiratory, right? It can be bowel sometimes. Okay, but most commonly it is seen in the oral cavity and the respiratory, right? Now what happens is that why this inflammatory response is coming towards this mucosal surface? Because of two things you need to remember. Either it can be toxin of diphtheria, either it can be irritant gases. Okay, now as this kind of inflammatory response comes with the contact of these toxins, there is the denudation or desquamation of the epithelium. Okay, and what happens is that there is a plasma. Plasma, it adheres to the surface and it coagulates over there. That's why you are having the white kind of plaque on the oral cavity sometimes, which is actually either hard to remove or either easily remove. If it is hard to remove, then we say that it is the diphtheric kind of fibrinous inflammation, isn't it? So that's the thing, and that's these kind of things they usually test you in the MCQs. Now look, why we are calling that as fibrinous one? Because what happens is plasma, it actually adheres on the surface and it is causing the necrosis over there. Okay, so the epithelium is getting necrotized. Okay, and it is getting fibrinous inflammation over there. Okay, so that's why we are calling that as fibrinous type of inflammation or pseudomembranous inflammation, because some of the membrane got necrotized. Okay, what can be the causes? Causes can be streptococcus, it can be corynebacterium, it can be pneumococcus, shigella, and there can be various kind of causes. Most importantly, which you need to remember, that is the corynebacterium diphtheria. Okay, corynebacterium diphtheria, and I hope you will not forget that. Okay, fine. Now let me tell you the main thing, that this fibrinous exudate. Okay, remember in the serous inflammation, in the last question I told you that serous exudate is present. In this fibrinous inflammation, we will be talking about the fibrinous exudate. Now what are the content of this fibrinous exudate? This fibrinous exudate contains a large amount of fibrin, neutrophils and macrophages. Okay, so what I am talking about, I am writing it over here. I said that I am talking about the fibrinous inflammation. First of all, I told you the another name of this, that is pseudomembranous. So I am saying that fibrinous inflammation, they are having the fibrinous exudate. Okay, they are having what? They are having the fibrinous exudate. And what are the content of this fibrinous exudate? You should need to know. Now, what will be the content of this fibrinous exudate? So there will be fibrin, neutrophils. Okay, so let me write it over here. Fibrin, there can be neutrophils. Okay, and there might be the macrophages. Right, remember these kind of cells were lacking in the serous exudate, but here they are present in more numbers. That's how also you can differentiate between the serous and the fibrinous inflammation. Okay, one last thing which you need to know. Okay, enough about this fibrinous inflammation, but one last thing which you need to know for this, for your CROC exam, that what kind of epithelium do they involve. So for an example, I told you there are two types, Crupus and diphtheric. Guys, please remember that this Crupus inflammation, they are actually involving the columnar epithelium. So Crupus inflammation, it develops on the columnar epithelium. So it develops on columnar epithelium. I hope you know the location of the columnar epithelium. Yes, most of your JIT actually it is having the columnar epithelium. About the diphtheric one, it is actually involving the squamous epithelium. Okay, which epithelium it is involving? It is involving the squamous epithelium. Okay, which squamous epithelium can be there? For example, lungs are having the squamous epithelium, isn't it? Okay, your oral cavity is having the stratified squamous epithelium. That's why diphtheria can be seen in the oral and respiratory system, oral cavity and the respiratory cavity, isn't it? So you need to know this thing. Okay, one more thing, Crupus inflammation, they actually, in this case, the fibrinous membrane actually removes or detach easily. Okay, Crupus one, the membranes will detach easily. Membranes will be detach easily. Okay, whereas in diphtheric one, membranes detach with difficulty or remove with difficulty. Okay, very important point for your CROC. Okay, they usually test you in these things. Okay, so once again let me summarize very quickly for you. Fibrinous inflammation is also called as pseudomembranous inflammation. Fibrinous inflammation is having two types, Crupus or diphtheric. Crupus involves the columnar epithelium, diphtheric involves the squamous epithelium. Crupus, in the Crupus one, fibrinous membranes are actually detached easily without any kind of bleeding. Diphtheria one, if you will be removing the membranes, they might bleed because they are actually adhering to the cavity very tightly. Okay, so that's why membranes detach with difficulty. Fibrinous inflammation is having fibrinous exudate, very simple. Serous one was having the serous exudate. There in the serous one, content was having the 2% protein and less amount of cells. Here the cells amount is larger ones. So for example, fibrins, neutrophils and macrophages, this is the content of the fibrinous inflammation. Okay, so I hope you are very clear about the serous inflammation and the fibrinous inflammation, and let me move to the next one. So let's talk about the question number 31 over here. On the third day of diphtheria, a 4-year-old girl died of diphtheria croup. Okay, this year okay, so this poor girl died of diphtheria croup. Autopsy shown thickened edematous dull mucus tuning of the larynx, trachea, bronchi, a grayish membrane. Okay, a grayish membrane that could be what? Easily separated. That could be easily separated, covered with the mucus tunic. And I don't think I need to tell the answer over here now. You must have guessed it much before. So the answer is very clear, that I told you that which kind of membranes can be easily separated, which kind of membrane can be detached very like they can be detached, and which kind of membrane will be detached with the difficulties. So there should be no doubt that Crupus, right, Crupus fibrinous inflammation, that is the answer over here. So it is not given in the option, so you know that it is the type of fibrinous one, isn't it? So answer will be the fibrinous inflammation. And you know which type? Yes, you know that this is the type of fibrinous. In the fibrinous one, this is the type of Crupus fibrinous inflammation, isn't it? This is the type of Crupus fibrinous inflammation. Okay, great. Let me move on to the next one. 32. Autopsy of a girl who died of asphyxia has shown that mucus tunic of the trachea and bronchi, they are involving and covered with the white gray membrane. Again guys, fibrinous inflammation, that is loose connected with the underlying tissues and can be easily removed with the forceps. Again guys, this is a case of Crupus fibrinous inflammation. Either Crupus must be given or either fibrinous must be given. So no doubt the answer will be the Crupus inflammation, which is the type of what? Is a type of definitely fibrinous inflammation, isn't it? Fibrinous inflammation. So I hope you are very much comfortable in solving these questions now. Let me move on to the next one. 33. A 5-year-old girl fell ill of diphtheria. Okay, again diphtheria question. Okay, in 3 days she died of asphyxia resulting from the diphtheria group, right? Resulting from the diphtheria group, and the autopsy has shown thickened edematous dull mucus with the grayish membrane. So many hints are given. Grayish membrane that can be easily separated. Again guys, easily separated. That's gonna be the Crupus inflammation, isn't it? Crupus fibrinous inflammation. So that's gonna be very easy for you. Crupus inflammation. Again, what's the type? Yes, fibrinous inflammation. Crupus fibrinous inflammation will be the proper answer of this question, isn't it? Okay, let me move on to the next one. 34. A man died of shigellosis. Mucus twining of the large intestine is plethoric, covered with a gray membrane. Next question is also about this fibrinous inflammation that can be hardly separated. Which means they are talking about which kind of fibrinous inflammation. They are talking about the diphtheric fibrinous inflammation, isn't it? So answer will be the diphtheric fibrinous inflammation. So what is the proper answer? Diphtheric fibrinous inflammation. I hope you are getting these questions quite comfortably, right? Question number 35. A 28-year-old patient has considerably enlarged plethoric painful tonsils. Plethoric painful tonsils, on their surface there are solid gray membranes that spread to the hard palate. Okay, again this is a question of fibrinous inflammation, tightly connected with underlying tissues, and attempt to separate them leads to bleeding, which means they are actually removing with the difficulties. It's kind of diphtheric fibrinous inflammation. Okay, if the diphtheric is not given, that can be considered a diphtheric exudative inflammation, right? So answer will be definitely diphtheric exudative or diphtheric fibrinous inflammation, isn't it? Okay, so many questions, you know, we saw that for an example like 4 or 5 questions they're coming from the fibrinous inflammation. That tells you the seriousness of this topic, right? So please guys, once again just pause the video, go back and just revise this serous inflammation, the fibrinous inflammation, and you should have the clear concept about this. Okay, meanwhile you can read from the notes as well, which will be provided in the description box below. Okay, anyways, let's move further. Question number 36. Spongy and cortical bones of the tibia in the different areas in the state, okay, of destruction cavities which have already appeared are filled with creamy masses of sulfurous color. So that's important for us. And what is the most possible form of inflammation? Okay, so they are simply talking about which kind of inflammation. They are talking about either suppurant or either purulent inflammation. As purulent is not given, this is the suppurative inflammation. In fact, they are the one and the same thing. So suppurative and purulent, suppurative or purulent inflammation they are talking about. Suppurative or purulent inflammation they are talking about. Purulent inflammation. Okay, now this suppurative purulent inflammation, how I came to know that this is suppurative or purulent inflammation? Look, first of all you need to know about the causes. There are some causes, for example staphylococcus, streptococcus, gonococcus, meningococcus, all these things which are ending with the coccus you can add in this category and they can cause the suppurative or purulent inflammation. Guys, purulent, isn't it pus? So wherever you are seeing the pus, which kind of inflammation you must guess over there? Yes, that will be either suppurant or purulent inflammation. Okay, one and the same thing, suppurant or purulent inflammation, synonym of each other, right? Now let me talk about the types over here. Before the types, it is characterized by the production of large amount of pus. As I said that it is containing the large amount of pus or the purulent exudate. Okay, pus or purulent is the same thing. Now they are containing what are the contents? Again, number of cells are increasing over here. For an example, necrotic cells can be there, neutrophils can be there, more and more amount of macrophages can be there, okay, and due to that edema can be present in the particular patient. Okay, so there are following types of purulent inflammation which I am going to tell you right now. That can be abscess, phlegmon, empyema. 3 types you need to remember. What I told you, abscess. Okay, so I am telling you about the types of this one. Okay, what can be them? There can be abscess, okay, there can be phlegmon, okay, and there can be empyema. Okay, all these 3 are important. Okay, so abscess, phlegmon and empyema. Fine. Now these are the types of the inflammation. Okay, means like this is the type of the which inflammation, suppurative or purulent inflammation. Okay, abscess, phlegmon and empyema, I will be discussing about them with the help of a question, because I will be discussing these 3 topics in the separate questions. Okay, so let me move on to the 37th one. Fine. So question number 37 says that autopsy of a 47-year-old man who died of, by the way, let me tell you why the answer was suppurative over here, because they were talking about the creamy masses, isn't it? Creamy mass means some kind of pus can be there, guys, right? That's why it is actually resembling the creamy kind of substance. Okay, so it is nothing but a pus. Okay, it is nothing but a pus over there, and that's why I told you that this is an example of purulent or suppurative inflammation. Clear? Okay, now let's move on to the 37 one. Autopsy of a 47-year-old man who died of pulmonary heart failure. Pulmonary heart failure is having another name. This is in the standard textbook you will be studying this topic as cor pulmonale. Okay, cor pulmonale. Okay, problem of the right heart, cor pulmonale. Fine. Now has shown a cavity of 4 into 4 centimeter. Now that's huge, filled with pus. Again, pus means which kind of inflammation, guys? That can be suppurative or purulent inflammation. In the left lung, the wall is scalloped, uneven, the wall is scalloped, uneven, presented by pulmonary tissue. So diagnose the disease. Okay, very simple for you. First of all, this is the type of suppurative or purulent inflammation, not given in the option. You need to go into the depth of the types. In the suppurant or purulent inflammation, I told you 3 types: abscess, phlegmon and empyema. Which kind of purulent inflammation is this one? That is the abscess, and actually this is the acute abscess happening after the cor pulmonale or pulmonary heart failure. And guys, look at the size of this cavity. That's huge. That is 4 into 4 centimeter. Okay, seen in the abscess. One more thing I would like to show over here, and scalloped, the wall is scalloped, uneven. Okay, these are the particular finding of the abscess. Okay, on the x-ray how it looks? On the x-ray it is having the air fluid cavity. Which kind of cavity am I talking about? Let me zoom on let me zoom into this x-ray over here, and let me show you. I am talking about, if you can appreciate this one. Okay, and in this one you can easily appreciate, I guess, that this. Okay, now you easily know, the lungs, they are always black. Why? Because they are containing the air, right? On x-ray, the basic rule of the x-ray, what is that? Air appears black in color on the x-ray, and some kind of solid thing, for example fluid, right, that will be appearing white. So this is the air fluid level. What you can appreciate, in this one, that is black. So what is that? This is air. Let me clear for you so that you can easily appreciate. Okay, so what is that over here? I want to say that this thing is air, this thing is air. Okay, and this thing is fluid, this thing is fluid, isn't it? This thing is air, this thing is fluid. Fine. So that's what I want to say, that you should appreciate over here, that this particular thing which you are seeing on the screen, air, because it is light, right? Air is light, fluid is heavy. So fluid, it will be appearing on the lower side and air will be appearing on the upper side. This is the abscess. That's how it looks on the lungs x-ray. Okay, I hope you are clear about this one. So the answer will be acute abscess in this case. Okay, let's move on to the next one, 38. After an intervention of a patient burn disease under the condition of severe organism reactivity decrease, a sepsis advance, sepsis emergency situation. After the burn, it is quite common. Now advance led to the death, and in the area of the anterior abdominal wall, the diffuse infiltration of the which surface, which space, intermuscular space, segmental leukocyte tissue edema, muscle fibers, lysis are microscopically observed. So define the kind of inflammation. Now look guys, you can't say that which kind of inflammation is it by just simply reading the question. Actually you should know the example and what are the things happening in which particular inflammation. Okay, for an example, in this particular case they are talking about the phlegmon. This is the suppurative or purulent kind of inflammation. First of all, let me tell you, this is which kind of inflammation? Suppurative or purulent inflammation. Suppurative or purulent inflammation. Now how I came to know that this is suppurative purulent inflammation? Because they are talking about the phlegmon over here. How I came to know that this is the case of phlegmon? Because they are talking about the intermuscular space, they are talking about the muscle fiber lysis. So yes, we have talked about the abscess. Now let me talk about the phlegmon. So phlegmon is a diffuse, this is a diffuse purulent inflammation. Okay, so it is a diffuse. Now sometimes it may be soft, sometimes it may be dense, but the particular thing which you need to remember is that it most frequently occurs along the muscular fibers, for example, which is mentioned in the R question. It can appear in the tendons, it can appear in the fascias, it can appear in the vascular nerve fibers, or it may appear in the subcutaneous fat also. So these are some of the locations. I repeat, it can appear in the muscular fibers, tendons, fascias, vascular nerve fibers, or in the subcutaneous fat. Okay, so that is about the phlegmon. Out of these 5 or 6 locations, they have mentioned about the muscular fibers. Okay, so guys, just look over these 5 or 6 locations which you need to keep in your mind, and you will be easily crack this question as a phlegmon. Phlegmonous inflammation you can say, or phlegmon is a type of suppurant or purulent inflammation. Okay, it might be soft, it might be dense as well. Okay, so that is about the phlegmon. Let me move on to the next one. 39. A patient complains of high temperature, dyspnea and pain in the right part of the thorax. Pain in the right part of the thorax. Okay, pain in the right part of the thorax, and they were talking about the dyspnea and the pain over there, high temperature. During the pleural tapping, pleural tapping, we are actually inserting the needle and we are removing extra amount of fluid from there. So 700 ml of yellow green creamy. So guys, creamy means what? Creamy means pus, isn't it? So this is the type of what? This is the type of suppurative or purulent inflammation. Once again, so many questions are coming from the fibrinous inflammation, so many questions coming from the suppurative purulent inflammation. Okay, so these are actually important. Lupus is important, diphtheric is important, fibrinous inflammation. Then this empyema, phlegmon, abscess, these are important, right? So what is this particular question they are talking about? So fluid was extracted. Okay, so once we know that this is a type of suppurative or purulent inflammation, but that is not given in the option, so we should know the particular type of this suppurative or purulent inflammation, and that is actually the empyema. Which empyema we are talking about? Because they are talking about the pleural cavity, pleural tapping, so it's gonna be pleural empyema definitely. So it is the pleural empyema, so that's going to be the answer for sure. So pleural empyema. So now let me talk about the pleural empyema now. So this is the purulent inflammation, which we all know that it is a type of purulent inflammation. It is a purulent inflammation of serous membranes. What can be the locations? Empyema of the pleural cavity, as you saw, empyema of the pleura can be there. Sometimes it can involve the gallbladder, so we will say the empyema of gallbladder. Sometimes it may involve the urinary bladder, empyema of urinary bladder, and some other structures might be involved over there. Okay, so that is about the empyema, right? Hope you got the answer. Let me take you to some of the image as far as empyema is concerned. First of all, come to the right side of this diagram. On the extreme right, you can see that this is the normal pleural space. This is the normal pleural space. Okay, no problem is there. Then you are seeing the yellow kind of thing appearing in the pleural space. That is nothing but a empyema. That is a pleural empyema. So pus is filling over there, right? As I said, this is the suppurative or purulent inflammation. Empyema comes in that category, right? So that is the part. So that is the empyema. How it looks on the X-ray? Okay, you can easily appreciate, I guess, on this X-ray. Look over the screen right now. So look, as I said, air is what? Air is black. Some kind of fluid, some kind of solid thing will be appearing white in color in the X-ray. So here what is happening? Yes, this kind of thing which is happening over here, which you can easily appreciate. What is that? Yes, this is what? This is nothing but the pus. Okay, this is some kind of fluid. Okay, if you can't say this is pus, you can easily say this is some kind of fluid, and there is definitely some kind of problem is there. Okay, so here you can easily appreciate the Alice curve. Okay, what is that curve, guys? This is actually, we are calling that as, in medicine we are calling that as Alice curve. Okay, whenever you are looking over the X-ray, we are concerned about this Alice curve, whether there is Alice curve or not. Here the Alice curve is absent, here the Alice curve is absent, isn't it? So that is the thing. And what is filling over here? This whole thing is filled up some kind of fluid, and we are expecting what? This is some kind of pus. What is that? This is some kind of pus, isn't it? So that's what you can appreciate in this image. Okay, so let me clear it for you so that you can really appreciate it. Fine. So that's what I was talking about. Okay, that's what I was talking about. Fine. Okay, so now let's talk about the next question. So 40th one, they are saying that autopsy of a man who died of sepsis, again this question comes from the sepsis, has shown a phlegmonous inflammation of the femoral bone. Okay, now that envelopes the marrow, it means the bone marrow, Haversian canals. I hope you are clear with the Haversian canal present in the bone, adjacent soft tissues and periosteum covering the outer surface of the bone, right? There are also multiple abscess under the periosteum. Multiple abscess, guys, multiple abscess under the periosteum. Define the most pathological process. It's gonna be what? So look, there was sepsis, right? So this bacteria came through the blood and then it is invading into the bone. What is actually happening? I said came through the blood. Can I say hematogenous spread? Yes. What is the way of spread? Hematogenous. Invading the bone, can I say osteo? Invading the bone marrow, can I say myelo? Inflammation will be definitely there, so can I say itis? So acute hematogenous osteomyelitis will be the case. Sepsis can't be chronic, guys, is it? Sepsis is an emergency situation. Sepsis can't be chronic, it is gonna be acute one. So what is the answer? It will be acute hematogenous osteomyelitis. Okay, acute hematogenous osteomyelitis. I hope you got my point. Okay, let me take you to some of the image of the acute hematogenous osteomyelitis, how it looks actually. Okay, so here you are seeing some of the image. I am talking about this point over here, that here you can see the blood vessel which is actually removing some of the green kind of thing. They are actually culprit over here. That can be the staphylococcus in this case, which is actually the bacteria which is causing this sepsis and causing the osteomyelitis, hematogenous osteomyelitis. Because I'm talking about the blood vessel, and I can say that this is the hematogenous spread, hematogenous osteomyelitis. Green kind of color which you can see, which you can appreciate over here, this one, right? This is actually nothing but an this is nothing but the purulent exudate, right? So this is the abscess, you can say, or necrotic material which you can say over here. Okay, this is the abscess caused by this same bacteria, the Staph aureus, right? Okay, then you might appreciate over here. So this is the Staph aureus bacteria. Okay, here, over here, Staph aureus bacteria. Fine. Okay, in the right one, in the right image, you can see that there is an X-ray over here. Periosteal bone formation, you can see diaphysis, you know, epiphysis, metaphysis, diaphysis. This is the metaphysis, then this is the epiphysis. Periosteal bone formation which is covering the bone surface. But look at this lytic lesion. I hope you can easily appreciate over here. Okay, this is the lytic lesion which I am talking about. This one is the lytic lesion. Okay, this lytic lesion I am talking about. If you can easily appreciate. Okay, I will zoom in over here. Yes, fine. So this lytic lesion is, why is it there? Because of this hematogenous osteomyelitis. Why is it there? Because of this hematogenous osteomyelitis. Okay, so what is the answer? Acute hematogenous osteomyelitis. Okay, the answer is going to be acute hematogenous osteomyelitis. Okay, so guys, I hope you enjoyed this discussion. If you did, please hit the like button. That was about the part 4 of this pathomorphology discussion. I will come back with the part 5 pathomorphology discussion soon. Okay, meanwhile, please share these videos with the with your roommates or with your friends who are preparing for the CROC examination, and I wish you all the best. Okay, and I will see you in my next video. Till then, please take care. Until next time, bye.